This is the topic of our today's discussion. As you already know, happiness mystery revealed. So, in our life, we are all searching for this wonderful thing called happiness. But we don't know what is the address of happiness. Suppose you have to search a person who lives in one apartment, but you don't know his flat number. So you will have to go on searching in all the flats, different places. How difficult it will be to find that person because you don't know his flat number, you don't know his address. Similarly, we are all searching for happiness in our lives, but we don't know what is the address, and we are searching at the wrong place. So, therefore, today we will try to discuss what actually is the address of happiness. So, before starting, I just want to mention this point that the basis of today's discussion is Vedic wisdom. It is not any motivational speaker's mental speculation. That means there may be many motivational speakers who can tell you how to be happy in life. But what we are discussing, it's not a motivational speech. It's Vedic wisdom, what our Vedas, what Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and our Vedas, what they tell about being happy in life. So, these facts we are trying to discuss. These are not someone's creation, this is timeless Vedic wisdom given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. So, first thing is we need to understand there are different levels of happiness. The first and the gross, the lowest level of happiness that we enjoy, it is called the gross or sensual happiness. What is this gross or sensual happiness? It is the happiness one enjoys by the five senses of the body. What are the five senses of the body? Eyes, nose, tongue, ears, and so on. So, how we enjoy with our eyes when we see some beautiful objects, with our ears when we hear some nice music, with our nose when we smell something pleasing, some pleasing fragrances, by our tongue when we taste some delicious and tasty food items, and by our skin when there is some soft touch or pleasing sensations, like we like to live in AC or we like to wear soft clothes. So that is the pleasure of the skin. So when we enjoy by the five senses of the body the happiness that we get, such a happiness is known as gross or sensual happiness. But we should know that it is the lowest type of happiness because it is available even for the animals, because the animals can also enjoy using these five sense organs of their body. Therefore it is considered to be a very low class happiness because they also have access to it. So in general human beings are not satisfied with just gross happiness, but they also want something higher. However, there may be some very low class people whose consciousness is very degraded and they are just concerned with only gross happiness, like some tribals or gross labor class people who are simply concerned about enjoying their senses. They don't think about anything more in their life. So, this is very gross. So, that's gross or sensual happiness that we enjoy by the five senses of the body. After this gross happiness, there is a higher level of happiness that is called subtle happiness. This is the happiness of mind, intelligence, and the ego. So, how our mind enjoys when we read some novel or poem or some art or somewhere where emotions are involved, when we have some uh, uh, emotional dealings or relationships. So, that is the enjoyment of the mind. Similarly, the enjoyment of intelligence when we solve some mathematics. So, when you solve a difficult mathematics problem, so it's like it gives some titillation to your intelligence. Similarly, those who are coders or programmers, they find so much intellectual happiness in coding that they give up all eating, sleeping, which is lower class, like gross or sensual happiness, because they are getting the happiness of the intelligence. So many coders, if you know someone, you can ask them, they get this experience that they forget everyone and just immerse themselves in their problem solving, in their coding and such things. So that's the enjoyment of the intelligence. And then there is the enjoyment of ego. Enjoyment of ego means when we get some name, fame, glory, post, power, position, respect, distinction, etc. So when we get these things, when we get some post, or when we get some respect, or when we get some name and fame, so this gives a satisfaction to our ego. So these are the three things: mind, intelligence and ego. By these three things we enjoy the subtle happiness. Now we should know that it is higher than gross happiness, because if one enjoys subtle happiness, the presence or absence of gross happiness does not matter to him, and similarly vice versa. Just for example, we can see a very simple example. Suppose a student is sitting in a 5-star restaurant and his favorite food items are kept in front of him on the table. He is about to eat his favorite food items, but all of a sudden his phone rings and it is his best friend who is calling him, and he tells that, yeah, you have failed in your final exam, to fail ho gaya final exam mein. So that message he gets when he was just about to eat his favorite food items in the restaurant. Now you can easily understand that that person will not be able to enjoy his favorite food items. Why? Because on a higher level, on subtle level, his mind is not happy. So even though the gross happiness of eating nice food items, it's available to him, he will not be able to relish it, because on a higher level, on the subtle level, he is not happy now. So even if the gross happiness is available, he will not be able to enjoy that, and overall he will be unhappy. And we can take just the opposite of this example. Suppose a person is traveling in a very crowded bus, too much crowded, and somehow he is holding on to one of the rods in the bus, and his phone rings, and again it is his friend. So he tells, I have one very important news for you. So then he tells, what is it so urgent that you have to tell me now only, because I am in a very crowded bus and I am not in a position to talk so much. So he says, no, it's very important. I just wanted to tell you that you have cracked your dream competitive exam, maybe IIT JEE exam or something like that. So now that person, he is grossly in a very uncomfortable position. He is in a crowded bus, too hot, and gross level we see then he is suffering. But on subtle platform we see that because his mind is happy, he will be ecstatic. So this goes to show that when we are happy on a higher platform, if we are happy on a subtle platform, if our mind, intelligence and ego is satisfied, then the presence and absence of gross happiness does not matter to us so much. But if we are not happy on subtle platform, then even if gross or sensual happiness is offered to us, we have the facility for gross and sensual happiness, still we will not be happy and satisfied. So this is the point that I wanted to make. Please switch off your audio so that we can continue. Those people who have their audio switched on, please switch off your audio. Okay. I request everyone to please switch off your audio. And when you have to speak, you can turn on your audio and then you can again switch it off. So that's the higher happiness of mind, intelligence and ego. So therefore we can see that every day in our life we sacrifice our gross happiness for subtle happiness. A student, he gives up playing cricket or his daily enjoyments of different activities when the exams come near, because he knows that if I perform nice in my exam, this will give me subtle happiness. For that, if I sacrifice little bit of gross happiness, it does not matter. So for the sake of the happiness of mind, intelligence and ego, people can very easily sacrifice their gross or sensual comforts in life. So this also goes to show that the subtle happiness is higher than gross happiness. So one needs to know that there has to be some little advancement in consciousness to appreciate this level of happiness. A dog, for example, will accept food from a person who insults him. You call a dog and say some bad words to him and give him a chapati. He will take the chapati. But you call your friend to your house and you give him nice food, but then you tell कि क्या यार खाने के तुम आ जाता है बार बार, and speak some insulting words to him. So he will be upset and next time he will not come to your house. So why? Because a dog, for him there is just gross or sensual happiness. He does not think about anything more than that. But a human being, he is not just on gross platform. He is on subtle happiness platform. He needs the happiness of mind, intelligence and ego more than what he needs gross and sensual happiness. So therefore he will be unhappy. So we need to understand, as our level of consciousness or sophistication increases, then people start taking pleasure in higher happiness, and lower levels of happiness do not matter to them so much. So as our consciousness increases, it becomes more subtle, more sophisticated, then we start valuing the higher levels of happiness so much, and we do not pay so much attention to the lower levels of happiness. But as we discussed, even among human beings, there may be some low class people whose consciousness is not so developed, who can only think about gross happiness. For example, we already told that tribals or some labor class people who live in the jungles, they are simply just concerned about the gross happiness of eating, sleeping and such things, and they have no inclination to enjoy the higher happiness of mind, intelligence and ego. So this is subtle happiness. Now next and the final, the highest level of happiness is the spiritual happiness. So you see this arrow we have made little longer. Okay, so why? Because this gap is much more, a lot of difference. Spiritual happiness is much higher than gross and subtle happiness. So in spiritual happiness also there are various categories, where divisions, so that we will not discuss in today's session, but just know that there are various classifications even under spiritual happiness. But this much we need to know, that the beginning stage of spiritual happiness, that is called Brahmananda. So that is just the beginning stage. What is Brahmananda? When you realize that I am not this body but I am spirit soul. That इतना अगर आपको पता चल जाए कि मैं शरीर नहीं आत्मा हूँ, जो कि which we speak like in everyday life, कि we are not this body, we are this soul. Even a rickshaw wala in India knows that we are not this body, we are this soul. But he does not have faith in this and he does not have realization of it. But if you get this much realization only, that I am not my body but I am spirit soul, sharir nahi atma hai, this much realization if you get, then that happiness is known as Brahmananda. His mic is on, I think. If someone's mic is on, please turn it off. Okay, so that's Brahmananda, realization that I am not this body but I am spirit soul. So our scriptures explain us that Brahmananda is like an ocean and complete material happiness is simply like a drop. What we mean by complete material happiness? Suppose you gain sovereignty over the whole earth. I mean to say, suppose you become the single king of this whole planet earth. You are the only one person who is the king of this whole planet earth. So can you imagine what will be the happiness? But Brahmananda, if we compare this happiness of being the single king of the whole planet earth, it is simply like a drop. compared to the happiness which is available in Brahmananda. So that we should understand. Then can you imagine how much happiness is there? It's like ocean. Brahmananda is like an ocean. And complete material happiness. That means if you are made the single king of this whole planet Earth, that happiness is simply like one drop compared to that ocean of Brahmananda. So it's so much happiness, and Brahmananda is just the beginning stage of spiritual happiness. But in comparison to the real spiritual happiness that we will see maybe in some other session, the higher stages of real spiritual happiness, when we get the realization of Bhagwan, so that happiness is like an ocean, and Brahmananda is like just one drop. So can you imagine how much happiness is there, how much spiritual happiness, how much ecstasy is there in actual real spiritual happiness, that even Brahmananda, that is like a drop, and that is like the ecstasy in real spiritual happiness is like an ocean. So it's great happiness, very very great happiness. But we need to slowly raise our consciousness to have access to that spiritual happiness. So what this spiritual happiness means in simple terms, it is defined as the happiness obtained by loving and serving God and all his children in the mood of a humble servant. So this is the basic definition of spiritual happiness. Loving and serving God and all his children in the mood of a humble servant. So it is the happiness of loving and being loved by God, and we should note that God means not just God, God plus God's children. Okay, so when we love and serve God, that means we love and serve God and his children. And who are his children? Not just the human beings, plants, animals, everyone. They are all the children of God. So this in simple terms is the definition of spiritual happiness. But this is the highest level of happiness, and as we elevate our consciousness to higher levels, then we can gain access to it. So it's not available to everyone. Just like subtle happiness is not available for a dog. A dog can only think about gross or sensual happiness. All the animals, we can say, they can think about gross or sensual happiness. Unlike human beings who are on the level of subtle happiness, similarly, not all human beings have access to spiritual happiness. Only those people who have elevated their consciousness by the practice of spirituality, they have access to this spiritual happiness. So we can understand this by a very simple example of Vasudev Datta. Vasudev Datta and obviously some other devotees of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So 500 years ago, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he appeared in the holy land of Sri Navadvip Mayapur in Bengal. So I think you must have heard about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was the incarnation of Lord Krishna himself. He was Lord Krishna himself who incarnated as the Yuga avatar for propagating the Yuga Dharma of this age. So that was Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the supreme God himself. So Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, although he was born in Mayapur, after taking sannyas, he went to live in Jagannath Puri. Now, because he was living there, so the Bengali devotees, the Vaishnavas who used to live in Bengal, every year they used to go to Jagannath Puri to spend time with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for the 4 months of Chaturmasya. Chaturmasya are the 4 months period where when the sadhus don't travel, they stay at one place. So for that period, the Bengali devotees, Vaishnavas, they used to go to Jagannath Puri to be with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then they used to have some festivals there, Rath Yatra and so many other festivals. And after Chaturmasya period was over, they used to come back to Bengal. So one time, when all the Bengali Vaishnavas were ready to come back from Jagannath Puri to back to their homes in Bengal, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was personally meeting with all these devotees and he was so happy and pleased with the devotional service, with the bhakti of these Vaishnavas of Bengal, that he was embracing each one of them and he was asking each one of them, what desires you have? Do you want to ask any boons? If you want to ask any boons, please ask me. Today I will fulfill whatever is your desire. So now understand who is asking this. The Supreme God is asking. If the Supreme God asks you, what you desire, tell me, I will fulfill. So it's not like any Tom, Dick and Harry who is asking. The Supreme Lord who is asking, and he has the capacity to fulfill whatever you desire. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was telling to all these Vaishnavas that what you want. Do you want a palace? Do you want lots of money? Do you want a kingdom? Do you want to become the king of the whole planet Earth? Or do you want to go to the Swargaloka, the heavenly planet, and enjoy there? Or do you want the post of Brahma? Brahma, who is the supreme most post in the whole universe. So do you want the post of Lord Brahma? Or do you want liberation, mukti or moksha? Or do you want to return back to Vaikuntha, the spiritual world? What you want, anything you want, today I will fulfill your desire. That is what Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is asking. And he is offering these benedictions, and he has the capacity to fulfill whatever you desire. But the devotees of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they were all very satisfied with the spiritual happiness that they were feeling, and all these things that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was telling, you see, all these things, they come in the category of gross or subtle happiness. So because they were enjoying the highest happiness, the spiritual happiness, they had no attachment for gross happiness and subtle happiness. So they all replied to Lord Sri Chaitanya that, dear Lord, we do not need all these things. We are happy being your servant. We are happy in our devotional service. There is nothing more what we need. See, for a gross materialist, however much money he gets, he will always want to get some more money. There is no end to it. But here we see these Bengali Vaishnavas, they were simple people, but because they have qualified themselves with a higher level of consciousness, they were not in need of anything higher. They were simply satisfied with their opulence of spiritual happiness. So that's the greatest opulence that we have. But Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to give something to these Vaishnavas, so he was growing desperate. So can you see? The Lord is growing desperate. He is telling that I want to give something to you, please take. And the devotees are not taking. So finally there was one devotee, his name was Vasudev Datta. He told that, yes my Lord, I wish to ask a benediction from you. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became very happy. He said, yes Vasudev, what you want, ask. Today I will fulfill any desire you have. So Vasudev Datta replied, and it's a very striking benediction that he asked. So hear it carefully, what he is asking as a benediction. So it's a mind-blowing thing what he is asking. So Vasudev Datta replied that, my dear Lord, as far as I am concerned, I am very happy and satisfied with your bhakti. I do not need anything for myself. But when I see these gross materialistic people of the world who are simply engaging in gross and subtle happiness, and they are committing so many sins only for the purpose of gaining this gross and subtle happiness, it breaks my heart to see that how these people, they are simply suffering for the lack of spiritual happiness. How these people, they are suffering for the lack of knowledge of your bhakti. So the benediction that I ask from you, my Lord, is that may all the sinful reactions of all these people, it comes on my head, and taking those sinful reactions, I am ready to go to hell and burn in the fire of hell for eternity. But I request that you purify all these people of their sinful reactions and take them back to the spiritual world with you, to Vaikuntha Dham or Golok Dham with you, and so that they may be happy. And for their sins, I will go to the hell and I wish to burn in the fire of hell eternally. I don't have any problem with that, but I request you, my Lord, that you purify them and take them back with you to the spiritual world. This is what is my this is the benediction that I desire from you. Please fulfill it. So, what a benediction, and what a level of consciousness that somebody can pray like this. We do not want to take the reaction of maybe one person on our head. If he has done some sin, then why we should suffer for his sin? But he is wanting the people of not only this earth planet, he is wanting that the people of the whole universe, whatever sins they have committed, everything comes on my head. May they all become purified of all their sinful actions and they all return back to the spiritual world. So just see the level of consciousness of Vasudeva Datta. So such people, they are qualified for spiritual happiness, who have this much exalted level of consciousness. So when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard and all the devotees heard, the devotees were crying and some of them fell on the ground unconscious, hearing what a benediction Vasudeva Datta was asking. Many devotees fell on the ground and they were crying that what a benediction he has asked. And Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, tears came into his eyes. And you understand, you cannot cheat the Lord. You cannot speak dialogues in front of him. We can also speak, yes, my dear Lord, we can also come to the temple and we can speak like this, the way Vasudeva Datta is speaking. But Lord will actually understand your heart. He is there in your heart in the form of Paramatma. And he can understand everything, whether you are speaking it honestly or you are just making it as a dialogue. So the Lord could understand that he was genuinely, honestly asking for this benediction. So Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so touched and there were tears in his eyes. And he said that Vasudeva, today you have purchased me. Today I have become your property. I declare it to the whole world that I have become the property of Vasudeva. And he can sell me in the market if he wishes. So you understand what a level of consciousness that the Supreme Lord is getting purchased by the love of a devotee. So people want to become God sometimes, but you see here Vasudeva Datta, what the Lord is telling, that I have become your property. He is giving a position which is even better than his own position to Vasudeva. He is telling that I am your property. So that is what the exalted position of the devotees of the Lord, the Vaishnavas. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, he said, do you think that the Supreme Lord will tolerate seeing a devotee like you go to hell? You don't have to go to hell. And I will, only because it is your desire that the people of this whole universe get delivered, I will deliver the people of this whole universe. Only because it is your desire. Just see the power of the desire of one devotee, that he can deliver the whole universe. I will deliver it. The whole universe will be delivered and you don't have to go to hell for this. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave this benediction to Vasudeva Datta. So obviously, if we think that such people are qualified for spiritual happiness, then we do not even come close to such people. But as I told you, spiritual happiness is not like 0 and 1. There are various levels in spiritual happiness. And the closer we go to the consciousness of Vasudeva Datta, the more we will enjoy this opulence of spiritual happiness. So that's the spiritual happiness. It's the property of the people who have very, very exalted consciousness like Vasudeva Datta. But once somebody attains it, he will lose all the tastes of this material world, because it's a very, very high level of enjoyment. So now you see, the material intelligence fails to understand this happiness, because this happiness is there on the transcendental platform. Transcendental means otherworldly. So to comprehend this level of happiness, we need spiritual intelligence. Material intelligence cannot understand what is the happiness in spiritual happiness, because according to our materialistic intelligence calculation, it is the happiness of becoming a servant, not just servant of one person but the servant of everyone. Become a servant of God and all his children, and all his children includes everyone. So that means you are becoming a servant of everyone. So it seems to be a very painful situation, because material calculation tells that the master will enjoy, servant has to serve the master. How will the servant enjoy? Because it's our materialistic calculation. But spiritual mathematics does not work like that. According to spiritual mathematics, this is the highest level of happiness that a living entity can enjoy. So that's we need to understand. Material calculation tells it's a very painful situation, because one master is very difficult to handle. If everyone in the universe becomes your master and you become the servant of everyone, then it will be like, it seems that it will be a very miserable life. So that we need to understand that material logic does not work on transcendental platform. So gross and sensual happiness we can relate with, we can understand, yes, this is gross, this is subtle, because this is on material platform and our material intelligence can understand it. But for understanding spiritual happiness, we need spiritual intelligence, and that spiritual intelligence will come when we raise our consciousness to that level by which we have access to spiritual happiness. So just as one loses taste for gross happiness when one gains subtle happiness, we discussed, similarly when one attains spiritual happiness, one loses taste for both gross and subtle happiness. So when you see the sadhus, if you have visited any holy place or dham like Vrindavan Dham, Ayodhya, Navadvip, Mayapur or Mathura, such places, the holy places or dhams, you will find many of the sadhus. Even in our Jagannath Puri Dham, you will find so many sadhus who look like a beggar. But if you go and talk with them little bit, you will understand that they seem to be very intelligent people. Then why they are beggars? Because they are experiencing a happiness which is higher than gross and subtle happiness. They are experiencing a spiritual happiness, therefore they have no need for worldly happiness, the happiness of gross happiness and or the subtle happiness, because the happiness they are experiencing, it's very high. So you may feel, you may step out of your Mercedes Benz car and see these people and feel compassionate on them. Oh my God, here is a beggar. But they will look at you and they will tell, oh my God, here comes another beggar. Why? Because they understand that these worldly people, they are looking at us like a beggar, but actually they are beggars because they have no access to the higher happiness of spiritual enjoyment. That only we have. So, and why are they are not materially, their clothes are like torn and they are just living like a beggar? Because they have given up material enjoyment, because they have attained a higher happiness. So therefore we should be very respectful to these people. We should not disrespect these people, because if we disrespect them, that means our any hope of advancing in bhakti gets destroyed. So one should have this technique that even if you go to a dham and you meet even a rickshaw wala, you should know how to manage things in such a way that he does not cheat you, and at the same time you do not shout on him or quarrel with him, because even the rickshaw wala or even simple people of holy places, they are worshipable because they are dham vasis living in dham. So that's the spiritual happiness. Any questions till now? Someone wants to ask anything? Because I am speaking and I am expecting that you are understanding everything, but still do you wish to ask anything? or just let me know if what I am discussing, is it clear? You can speak or you can write in the chat. What I am speaking, is it making some sense? You are able to understand? You can speak or you can write in the chat. Okay. Okay, it's clear. Okay, fine. Others? Okay, yes. Okay, fine. So we will move ahead. So you see, the purpose of spirituality is that it takes our spiritual practices, they take us from the lower levels of consciousness to the higher levels, and ultimately to reach to the level where we can have access to the spiritual happiness. That's the purpose of the spiritual practices, to elevate our consciousness. So you see, when we elevate our consciousness, then material happiness automatically becomes tasteless. For example, as a child, he grows into a young man. Because of the increase of maturity, his object of happiness changes from balloon to bicycle to a bike. A small child, he finds happiness simply in a balloon. He will cry for a balloon. But as he becomes little mature, little grown up, then now he wants a bicycle. He will not cry for a balloon. And as he becomes little more mature, little more grown up, then now he wants a bike. Now, so we can see from this example, as the level of maturity is increasing, the object of happiness is also changing. Similar thing is applicable with us also. As our level of consciousness or maturity of sophistication, it increases, so we stop enjoying or taking pleasure in lower levels of happiness, and we switch to the higher levels of happiness. This does not mean the lower levels of happiness we give up. We may keep or we may give up, both things are possible, but we do not value them so much as we value the higher levels of happiness. So a very covered person, he will simply be on gross platform. In general, human beings are on subtle platform, and if we qualify ourselves with spiritual sadhana, we will experience the ultimate happiness of spiritual ecstasy. So that's there. Now here, this is a verse from Srimad Bhagavad Gita 2.59, in which Krishna is telling to Arjun that Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina rasvajyam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. So here Lord Krishna is telling that the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, though the taste for sense objects remains, but ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. So that's the principle of param drishtva nivartate. That means you cannot artificially give up the lower happiness. So the detachment or vairagya, it is not artificial. You have a lot of desire to enjoy the things of this world, but somehow you are controlling yourself and not trying to enjoy. That kind of detachment is not needed, because that kind of detachment will not last. You can restrict yourself from enjoying the worldly things for some time by your determination, by your willpower, but for it will not last for a long time. The proper way of giving up the lower engagements is to develop our attraction for the higher tastes, for the higher engagements. That means if we develop our consciousness so that we have access to subtle happiness, automatically gross happiness becomes secondary for us. And similarly, if our consciousness develops to such a level that we start taking pleasure in spiritual happiness, then automatically the gross and subtle happiness do not matter for us so much. So that's the principle of param drishtva nivartate, which the Lord is telling in Bhagavad Gita. So one should know that this is the proper method of giving up all lower tastes, bad habits, and developing virtuous quality. And as we discussed, force will not work for long, because all sins which arise from lust, anger, pride, greed, envy, and illusion, they happen for the want of gross and subtle happiness alone. You see, all the crimes in society, they are a result of the want for gross and sensual happiness. Because we want gross and sensual happiness, we commit sins or crimes because of this. But if we elevate our consciousness to a higher level, then we automatically do not place so much importance in gross and subtle happiness, and automatically the sins in society, it will go down. So the politicians or the head of the state, the government, is to see that people are practicing spirituality properly, and therefore they are elevating their consciousness. Because just if you are trying to, the government nowadays, they simply try to keep law and order. They just want to keep the crime under control by force, that will not allow any crime to happen. But a simple way of subduing all kinds of criminal activities in the state is to elevate the consciousness of people. So just with the power of your danda, you cannot keep the criminals down for long. As soon as they will get some opportunity, again they will do some criminal activity. But if you elevate the consciousness of the citizens, then automatically they will give up all their lower habits, and automatically they will become a law abiding citizen. So this is the proper method, what Srila Prabhupada used to tell. And now he showed this thing also practically in 1970s in United States. So this example is there, which is Srila Prabhupada's personal example. Srila Prabhupada was the founder of ISKCON. So he, by his own example, he demonstrated how this principle of param drishtva nivartate works. So in 1960s and 70s, there was a big population of the youths who were giving up their parents, and they were just going out on the streets, and they were taking to all kinds of wrong practices. They were all kind of sins they were committing, and even the government was in like kind of a big confusion how to rectify these people, how to stop these people, because they were disobeying their parents, they were disobeying the government, and they were not accepting any authority, and they were committing all kinds of crimes, sins, and everything. So even the government was not able to understand, and the government was bewildered. But Srila Prabhupada, he said, I can transform these people. And he used this simple formula of param drishtva nivartate. Let them come to the temple, let them engage in devotional service, let them understand little bit of Bhagavad Gita, and slowly their consciousness was elevated, and many of them are now today currently from those same hippie population. Many of them are very, very great Vaishnavas today in ISKCON society. They have come from that place. So even the US government was surprised that how Srila Prabhupada could transform such people who were so low class to this much high level of consciousness. So this itself is a proof of the validity of the process that Lord is mentioning in Bhagavad Gita also, and the process of bhakti, that by practicing this process, if we elevate our consciousness, and surely we will develop a higher taste, and all these lower things will not matter to us so much. right? So another point to be understood is that spiritual happiness is complementary. So it is, material happiness is not like that. So it is unlike material happiness. Spiritual happiness is complementary. So what it means is that if two spiritual enjoyers they come together, they multiply each other's happiness. Just like we are performing kirtan, we are alone, not so much happiness. If two people come, then there is more happiness. And if many people come and join the kirtan, then the kirtan becomes more ecstatic and more bliss. So that's the nature of a spiritual enjoyment, that more spiritual enjoyers, if they come together, then more happiness they experience. But it is just opposite in material enjoyment. If material enjoyers they come together, they divide each other's happiness. Just for example, suppose there are 10 rasgullas and there is one person, he can eat all the 10 rasgullas, but two people come, now they have to divide 5 rasgullas, and if four people come, again they have to divide now. So like this, so if more people come, because the material resources of material enjoyment they are limited, the seats in IIT they are limited, so only some people will get, and more is the number of population who is competing for those seats in IIT, more is the division of enjoyment, very less people will go through. But it's just the opposite in spiritual happiness. So material enjoyers they come together, they divide each other's happiness, and therefore there is envy, competition, and all these lower qualities they come into picture. But if spiritual enjoyers they come together, they multiply each other's happiness. So that's the nature of spiritual enjoyment. So just imagine a world in which everyone loves everyone else more than his or her life itself. If you get one such friend who loves you so much that any point of time he can give his or her life for you, can you imagine how much satisfaction we get from such a relationship, even with one person who has so much love for us that he can sacrifice even his life for us? So just one relationship gives so much satisfaction. Now suppose the whole world becomes like that, that everyone is in this mood and everyone has so much love for everyone else that at any point of time they will sacrifice their life for some little pleasure of other people. So what a world it will be. So actually that is the definition of the spiritual world. That place is called Vaikuntha, the place where everyone takes pleasure in spiritual happiness alone, not in material happiness. That means everyone else thinks that I am the servant of everyone else. Everyone thinks that everyone else is my master and I am the servant of everyone else. So Vaikuntha is a place obviously in the spiritual world, but it's a consciousness also. So if the people here on this earth planet or even in some place, so the people develop this level of consciousness, so that place becomes spiritual world or Vaikuntha. So Vaikuntha, how it becomes? By the consciousness of the people. So we can descend, we can make the Vaikuntha descend even in our homes, if in our home everyone is in this consciousness. So that's the definition of the spiritual world. Now you see this is a graph of happiness versus time. So here the graph that we have shown in blue color, it's the graph of material enjoyment, both gross and subtle. Okay, so we can see from the graph that the material enjoyment slowly it decreases, it goes down with the passage of time. Initially there is some excitement, but slowly it goes down. For example, we eat rasgulla, suppose. So first rasgulla, it will give you a lot of happiness. Then you take 5 rasgullas, Now the happiness will not be so much. Now you take your 10th rasgulla, then you will not enjoy it at all because you have eaten sufficient. Then 11, 12, 13, 14, 15th rasgulla. Now you will tell ki now it's no more. Now it's troublesome. Now 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Now you will tell ki now it has become a torture. Now I don't want. Now you will start vomiting if somebody feeds you more rasgullas. So that's the nature of the material happiness. Initially there is enjoyment, but slowly it goes down. Similarly, if you get some post also, so initially there is excitement, you get some post or some respect or some position, so there is some excitement, but then it will become a routine affair and you will not derive so much happiness from it, and over a period of time it may even become burdensome also. Similarly, if we get a new laptop, so initially when one gets a new laptop, it's so much excitement, people are sitting on it and exploring the different features of the laptop, but then slowly the laptop becomes old and it is thrown away in one corner of the room, or even if it is there, we are not so much excited about it because it has now become an old thing. Similarly, if one marries, got a new wife, for what purpose? Only for sensual or subtle enjoyment. Obviously, the marriages which are based on the higher principles, they do not fall in this category. But suppose the marriage between two people is only for this purpose, the material happiness, then that will also become stale. And like one famous poet, he tells that before marriage, the wife, she looks like Chandramukhi. After some time of the marriage, she becomes Suryamukhi, and after a few years pass, she becomes like a Jwalamukhi. So that is how he expresses the same thing, that how the material happiness slowly goes down. Obviously, if it is based on just the gross principles, the marriages, if they are based on the higher principles which are on transcendental platform, then such a thing will not happen. So etc. Such things. Someone wants to say something? Okay. Okay. So there is striking real life example of Mr. George Harrison, Beatles band. I don't know if you have heard his name, but in 1960s and 1970s, he was like the one of the most famous personalities on earth. It is said that his fame was like the fame of the President of United States of America. More than that, not like that, more than the fame of the President of United States. That's what was his fame. On his birthday, he used to get greeting cards, and the post office used to dispatch 2 or 3 buses, this 2 3 truckloads full of greeting cards, because he had so many fans all over the world and they all used to send so many greeting cards that 2 3 trucks from the post office that used to come to his house. So can you imagine what was his fame? And uh, wherever he used to go, people were like just going crazy to just get one little view of George Harrison. So one time George Harrison, he went in a restaurant and he took his dinner, and after taking his dinner he washed his hands and then wiped his hands in a towel. So what the restaurant owner did, he took that towel, kept it safely. Later on, he tore that towel into small pieces and auctioned it. That means he sold it, nilam kar diya. Kisko? All the fans of George Harrison. They all purchased that towel in which George Harrison has wiped his hands after taking his dinner. And by the money that this person got by auctioning that towel, small pieces of that towel, by that money he built a 5-star restaurant. So can you imagine what was the fame of Mr. George Harrison? How much famous he was. So this George Harrison, what he is telling about happiness, I think we should try to hear, because in our lives we are somewhat kind of trying to become George Harrison, a little George Harrison in our own fields. So now George Harrison, who has already achieved that level, so what he is speaking, that we should try to hear. So George Harrison, he met with Srila Prabhupada, and he was very impressed by the philosophy that Srila Prabhupada was teaching, and he wanted to give up all his worldly duties, and he just wanted to become a full-time devotee with Srila Prabhupada. He wanted to give up his Beatles band and everything, and he just wanted to become a devotee, get initiated by Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada said that you don't need to give up your profession. You can use it for Krishna's service, not for Maya's service. So using your profession for Krishna's service means what? Srila Prabhupada told George Harrison that you are now singing some love songs and some other kinds of songs. Now you sing songs about Krishna or God and make Krishna famous all over the world. So taking this instruction, George Harrison, he made this album. You must have heard this song. Now also if you search it on YouTube and on Google, you'll get this song, My Sweet Lord. So when they made this album, the Beatles band, it was the #1 selling record in the whole of the Earth planet practically. So for many days, the #1 selling record. And this made this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, Lord Krishna and ISKCON, that time it became so much famous all over the world just because of this song, this album that George Harrison made. So this was the example. And later on in an interview, now just listen what George Harrison is telling about his experience with the spiritual life. So he tells that when I look at myself, I find myself standing on top of a mountain, and when I look down, I see that all the people of the world, they are trying to climb up this mountain and reach to the position where I am standing today. But these people, they don't know that when they will reach here, they will find only darkness. And he tells that I was fortunate enough to realize in time that these material things will not give me happiness, because I got all these things since my childhood. So George Harrison, since his childhood only, he was very famous. He was born with fame. Now we are trying to achieve the position of George Harrison, thinking that maybe this thing will give us a lot of happiness. But George Harrison never had to achieve such a thing. He was famous since his childhood only. And therefore, as we can see, the nature of material happiness, it goes down, and ultimately it becomes misery only. So this bending of the graph happened for him very soon. And therefore, he could realize that this is not the real happiness. This is something very temporary. It goes down, illusory. And then he started searching for the real happiness. And then he writes in the introduction of this book of Srila Prabhupada called Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that all one needs is Krishna, God. Bracket he writes. Some of us know and some of us don't know. So when we are searching for happiness, actually we are searching for Krishna or God. But some of us know directly that we are searching for Krishna, and some of us we don't know that we are searching for God or Krishna. So that is the realization of George Harrison, that only spiritual happiness is the real happiness. Material happiness is not the real happiness. So just you see, this is the graph of spiritual enjoyment. So initially the spiritual enjoyment, it may be miserable, but slowly as time passes, we will find that the spiritual enjoyment takes its course and it goes very high. Just like initially you may not like coming to a temple or attending a Bhagavad Gita discourse, you'll find it's more enjoyable go to a party, go to a disco, go for a movie. It seems there is more happiness in that. What happiness is there in reading Bhagavad Gita? Or what happiness is there going to these places? Temple is such a boring place, it looks like. So initially there may be some misery, but ultimately the spiritual enjoyment rises if we just continue. So we need some patience. If we continue with little patience, ultimately the spiritual enjoyment will show its course. And the same things which initially you may have felt that it's too boring, those same things will give you a lot of spiritual enjoyment. So that's the nature of material enjoyment and spiritual enjoyment. So now, as an intelligent patient, he himself goes to the doctor and requests him for an injection, even if it is painful, and even thanks him for it, and maybe even gives him money for it. So you see, a child will cry, he will not want to go to a doctor, right? But an intelligent person, a grown up man, if he is diseased, he will happily go to a doctor and he will request a doctor for the injection, even though the injection is painful, and even thank him for giving that injection. So similarly, we should also seek the association of saintly people or sadhus, because initially the sadhus association may seem to be little painful. That sadhus, because they cut our attachments of the world, so their association may seem to be little painful, but ultimately by their association these people can deliver the highest quality of spiritual enjoyment for us. This is a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 5th chapter, 1st verse. So here Lord Rishabdev is telling to his sons, ऋषभ उवाच नायम देहो देह भाजम त्रिलोके कष्टान कामान अर्हते विडभुजाम ये तपो दिव्यम पुत्र का येन सत्वम शुद्धेत यस्मात् ब्रह्म सौख्यम तवनंतम. So Rishabh Dev is telling to his sons that, my dear boys, of all the living entities who have accepted material bodies in this world, one who has been awarded this human form should not work hard day and night simply for sense gratification, which is available even for the dogs and the hogs that eat stool. So that means he's telling that sense gratification means this lower happiness of gross enjoyment and subtle enjoyment. He's telling that if you have got this human form of body, one should not work hard day and night only for this gross and subtle enjoyment, because it's even available to the dogs and hogs that eat stool. Even for the animals, such enjoyment is available. So okay, if one should not do that, then what one should do? So he tells that one should engage in penance and austerity to attain the divine position of devotional service. So initially there may be some penance and austerity, some discomfort in spiritual life, just like we can see in this graph. But if we continue, then what will happen? So he tells that by such activity one's heart is purified, and when one attains this position, he can attain eternal blissful life, which is transcendental to material happiness and which continues forever. This is the spiritual happiness. What one should do? Tapo divyam. That means penance and austerities. For what purpose? Shuddhet. Sattvam shuddhet. That means purification of the heart. That means the dirty qualities in the heart, they go away. And then what happens? Brahma Saukyam Tavanantam. So he attains Brahma Saukhya, the spiritual happiness. And what is that? That is Anantam. That means that is unending, infinite, and it just goes on increasing. So this is the real goal of human form of life. Otherwise, what's the point in just wasting our life for the same things which are available even for the animals, right? So this concept can be understood by plotting some of the things on a number line. I will show you how. So just pay little attention, be little concentrated. See, this is the number line. On right side we have happiness. So now on left side we write pain or misery. Usually our human body, it has certain capacity. It can tolerate this much level of pain. Beyond that level of pain, the human body will shut down because it does not have capacity to tolerate some beyond that much level of pain. And similarly, it can have access to certain level of happiness, and beyond that it will not be able to tolerate that much level of happiness also. So it has a range, this much pain to this much happiness. This much is the range of human body. Now the leftmost point, what this point is called? According to medical science, this point is called the stage of coma. Coma means when the misery in the body, the pain in the body, maybe because of some fatal disease, it increases and goes to such a level that now the person cannot tolerate that much level of pain. Then the body shuts down and the person is said to be in a stage of coma. So the positive counterpart of it, the point where there is so much happiness that the body cannot tolerate, what this point is called? So actually there is no name for this point in English dictionary. Why? Because the material happiness has a limited range. It cannot go up till this point, and therefore the materialistic people, they have no idea that such a thing also exists. So this point lies in the zone of spiritual happiness. This point lies in this category, in this zone, the zone of spiritual happiness. And therefore the materialistic people, the material science does not know that such point can also exist when the human body can go into such an state that it cannot tolerate that much level of happiness also. Therefore there is no name for this point in English dictionary. But our scriptures, our shastras, they tell what this point is. They tell that this point is called spiritual coma. Just like there is material coma, left hand side, similarly there is spiritual coma, and it is preceded by Asht Sattvic Vikar. So what is this Asht Sattvic Vikar? These are some of the symptoms that our body shows when there is a lot of happiness in the body. Just like intense tears start coming from the eyes, the hairs on the body, they stand erect, the throat becomes choked up, the limbs start trembling, shrinking, and the person may behave like a madman, shouting, rolling on the ground. So all these symptoms are manifest in the body of the person. Why he is behaving like a madman? Because he is experiencing so much happiness which the material body, this human body, fails to tolerate. It's beyond the capacity of the human body to hold that much level of happiness. So much happiness is there. So therefore these vikars, they start coming. Now you see, just note this point, that in negative side also, as we approach the point of coma, the same symptoms come. As the level of happiness increases, still the person will cry, and as the level of pain increases, still the person is going to cry. Both places he is going to cry. But the happiness tears, they are cold, and the tears of suffering, they are hot. So there is a difference. So these symptoms which precede spiritual coma, they are called Ash-Sattvic Vikar, and similarly there are Vikar symptoms in the negative side also as one person approaches the stage of material coma also. So both places these Vikaras happen. So negative side they may be called some Tamasic Vikar or something, but in positive side we call them Ash-Sattvic Vikar according to our scriptures. So some important point to be noted here is, as we already discussed, we should not offend any sadhus in the dham because many of them may be on this level of spiritual happiness. They may be on the level of Ash-Sattvic Vikar and they may behave madly, and you may think he is a beggar, he is a madman, pagal admi hai, but you may not know that those symptoms of madness may be the symptoms of Ash-Sattvic Vikar. And obviously as the Vikar increases, the person goes in spiritual coma, like another fainting, the losing of consciousness. So we should not offend even the normal people who live in any holy place. And second important point to be noted is Ash-Sattvic Vikar in itself is not a proof of spiritual enjoyment, spiritual advancement, as it can be imitated. You see, even our movie actors and actresses, they can also cry, they can also act like a madman. This does not mean they are having a Sattvic Vikar. So it can be easily imitated by a person, and person can make a drama of it. So this does not mean that the person is having Sattvic Vikar. So there are a category of people who are called Sahajiyas, and especially in Bengal they are very prominent. The Sahajiya category of people who are not so much advanced in spiritual life, but they imitate these symptoms. And how we can understand, in when kirtan is going on, that time they will cry, that time they will show these symptoms of ecstasy, but when they come out of it, again they will start all their sinful nonsense activities. So if someone is showing the symptom of Ash-Sattvic, that means he is experiencing the spiritual happiness, that means he should be detached from material happiness. So actually this is the proof of real detachment, that the person who is experiencing Ash-Sattvic Vikar or spiritual happiness, he is detached from two lower levels of happiness. That means he is detached from gross happiness and is detached from subtle happiness. He does not want the name fame which comes by showing a Sattvic Vikar, because people understand, if somebody is showing a Sattvic Vikar, people who know little bit of scriptures, they understand that he must be a very great Mahatma. So for that name fame, the person does like this. But the real proof is not a Sattvic Vikar. Real proof is that person should be fully detached. If the person is showing a Sattvic Vikar and then he is engaging in all sinful activities, wrong activities, that means he is simply a cheater. He is not a very advanced person who can exhibit a Sattvic Vikar. Okay. So now we see, as one becomes qualified more and more by the practice of spirituality, he crosses the range of human body and he has now become qualified for the happiness which is beyond the range of human body. So then, just like in coma, in negative side, when a person experiences coma, then after some time he gives up his body. Similarly, when one experiences a spiritual coma, then also the body falls down, because the happiness is so much that the person cannot tolerate, and when the body falls down, then that is the perfection of life. That person, because he has qualified himself for a higher level of spiritual happiness, he is given a spiritual body or Siddha Deh, and in that spiritual body he returns back to the spiritual world to enjoy unlimited spiritual happiness that is available there. So what is spiritual world? That we need to understand a little bit. See, spiritual world is a place where all desires are fulfilled and happiness increases at every moment. This is the simple definition of the spiritual world. We should know that spiritual world is not impersonal. That means it's not like a light where we go and we also merge in that light. It's not like a light. Actually, material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. What it means is, in the spiritual world there are trees, and therefore in material world also we have trees. In the spiritual world there are cities, towns, villages. Similarly, we have in material world all these things, cities, towns and villages. Everything that is there in the material world is also there in the spiritual world, because material world is a perverted reflection. Why perverted? Because material world is full of kuntha or misery, and spiritual world is vaikuntha. That means there is no misery. Kuntha means misery. So we find kuntha in material world because it's a perverted reflection, and in spiritual world everything is there in its pure form, and therefore there is no misery, and therefore it's called vaikuntha. So now a very important point to understand is, the Lord, Supreme God, He incarnates from the spiritual world, He descends to this material world to convince us to return back to spiritual world. We are like the children of the Lord who have given up their father, and we have come to this material world searching for material enjoyment. So the Lord comes here to advertise the spiritual happiness and take us back to the spiritual world. Just like you see when a new movie comes, so before the release of the movie, they release a 2 minutes trailer or promo video. So when we watch that promo video, we become attracted to the movie, and people then go and watch that movie. So similarly, when the Lord descends here on this earth, then He advertises. That's 2 minutes movie. So this Ram Leela, Krishna Leela, what this Leela is, actually Ram Leela is happening eternally in the spiritual world, or Krishna Leela is happening eternally in the spiritual world. But here in the material world, He just gives a 2 minutes trailer, kind of just a small demonstration. This is how the people I live with my devotees in the spiritual world. So just like you see the dhams like Vrindavan, Ayodhya, Dwarka, they are the replicas of these places in the spiritual world. So actually Vrindavan, where it exists? It exists in the spiritual world. So therefore it is said that there are two kinds of Vrindavan. One is called Bhauma Vrindavan and one is called Golok Vrindavan. So Bhauma Vrindavan is the Vrindavan that we see on this earth planet. The Vrindavan which is there in India. So that is called Bhauma Vrindavan, and there is Golok Vrindavan. It's the original Vrindavan in the spiritual world, and the Bhauma Vrindavan is a replica of that original Vrindavan in the spiritual world, right? So it's like that. Similarly, all these places, Ayodhya, Dwarka, they are the places of the spiritual world. They actually exist in the spiritual world, but the places here what we find on this earth planet, they are the replica of it. So how these replicas have come to earth planet? Because when the Lord visits the earth planet from the spiritual world, He comes along with all His paraphernalia. That means He comes along with His associates, and He also comes along with His weapons. He comes along with His place of residence also. He comes along with His dhams also. And therefore He brings this Vrindavan, Ayodhya, Dwarka, all these dhams also when He comes to earth planet for the purpose of advertising that here this is Vrindavan, and you see in the original Vrindavan how I live with my devotees. And in this Ayodhya, like Lord Ram, He advertised that this is how I live with my devotees in the spiritual planet, in the spiritual world. So Lord Ram has a spiritual planet called Ayodhya in the spiritual world. So and there eternally Lord Ram lives with all his devotees. And here the Ayodhya, that small Ayodhya that we see, that is for this purpose. It's like a 2 minutes trailer, 2 minutes movie where the Lord advertises that how I live in the spiritual world along with my devotees. So this is the purpose of Lord's incarnation. So we can understand this thing by a very short story that I will just tell you, so that this concept becomes clear. Once there was a family, very rich family, So husband, wife, and they had a grown-up son. And it was a very rich family. They had their bungalow and car and servants, everything in the city. So one time the son got a desire that I want a car, a new car. So the parents said, okay, you take a new car. So they gave him the new car, and the son, he uh, started test driving it, and driving it he went to the mountains. And because he was not an experienced driver, when he was driving his car on the mountains, he lost balance and the car fell down into a valley, into a deep valley in the mountain. So when the news came to the parents, they came running to search for their child. But police and everyone, they searched a lot, but they could not find. They could not find even the car, or they could not find the son also. So the parents assumed that our son has died. But actually, what had happened was the son did not die. He somehow he survived, and there was a village of the tribals. So when the tribals saw that there is a young boy who is very injured, they took that young boy with them, and they healed him, they nursed him. So he became normal, but he lost his memory. So he could not remember that I was the son of such a rich man in the city. And the tribals, they accepted him as one of them. So he started living with the tribals like a tribal man only. So like this he started living. But after some days, this news, it reached to the parents of this boy. They came to know that actually our son has not died, he is living like this with the tribals. So again they came to this village of the tribals, and they asked the son that why you are living in such a poverty stricken condition. You are a rich man, you are our son, please come back with us in the city. So because the son had lost his memory, so he was not ready. He was telling him, no, uh, these tribals are, they are my family members, and I am a part of this community, I don't know you. And he was not ready to go back. So the parents, they made a plan how to bring the son back. So what they did, they made a replica of their house, their bungalow, in that village. In that village only, they made exactly the same bungalow where they used to live in the city. The same kind of bungalow they made even in that village. So that uh, so when that bungalow was ready, then they brought the son to that bungalow, and they started showing him, and they had made exactly the same things. The room of the son, his guitar, his objects, his bed, and everything was exactly the same. So when they brought the son to that bungalow, he slowly started remembering, oh, this was my room, oh, this was my guitar, this was my bed, and this was my house, this was my garden. Slowly the memory started coming back to him, because he looked at those familiar objects. And ultimately he got his remembrance back, and they took him back with him to the city. So this is how the Lord does with us also. We have lost our remembrance that originally spiritual world, this Vrindavan, Ayodhya or Dwarka, these are our original homes in the spiritual world. But now when we have come to this material world, we have forgotten that actually we belong to these places in the spiritual world. And therefore the Lord comes with these replica homes of Vrindavan, Ayodhya, Dwarka, and advertises. And when we go to these places and we see, and these places take darshan of the deities there, and slowly our consciousness, it comes back to original state. We remember that we are meant to live in the spiritual world, that's our original home. Material world is a foreign place, and then we go back. So this is how the Lord advertises and convinces us to return back to the spiritual world. Any questions till now? Okay, so we will continue. So left side, you see, of this human body is the hellish body. This is called Yatna Sharir, the hellish body. So this is the body that is given to human beings who are too sinful after their death, and in this hellish body they go to hellish planets or the Narak Lok for the punishments for their sin. So hellish body is just the opposite of spiritual body. Siddha De or Yatna De. These are two opposite bodies. Just like a spiritual body or the Siddha De, it has the capacity to tolerate that much level of happiness which a human body cannot tolerate. Similarly, the hellish body has the capacity to tolerate that much level of pain which human body cannot tolerate. Just for example, it's described in Srimad Bhagavatam that a person who cooks animals alive. So we are not talking about non-veg eating. We are talking about a particular practice of cooking animals alive. Many times such a practice is seen in China. So what is the punishment for such people who cook live animals? The animal is living, he has not died, and they put the animal in the oil and fry. So what is the punishment that is given to such people? So that Srimad Bhagavatam describes that such people, they are themselves put in hellish planet in a frying oil. Burning hot oil is there in a big pan, and these people are put in that oil. But the difference is they have a Yatna Sharir, not a human body. So human body will just simply die in 2-3 seconds maybe. But the Yatna Sharir, it will not die. It has the capacity to tolerate that much level of discomfort, that much level of pain. And in that position, the person cannot die also, and he will just go on suffering for maybe thousands of years. So can you imagine what a painful situation that is? That the person cannot die also, and at the same time he is suffering so much, right? So what really painful situation is there for these people? So now many people may feel that it is imagination. So actually it's not imagination. There have been solid proofs that such places and such kind of punishments do exist. I will give you just one very small example and then we will move ahead. You see, there was one lady in United States of America. She was in coma, and then she came out of coma, and after that she visited one of our ISKCON temples, and there is one book which is available even in our stores. That book is called, it is titled The Second Chance. The Second Chance, and the cover page of that book is depicting how the Yamdutas, the messengers of Yamraj, the Yamdutas, they are binding a person and taking him to the hellish planet for punishment. So now when you see the arts that are made by ISKCON artists, so they are not whimsical, they are not out of imagination. Shastras, they describe how a Yamduta looks, what are his bodily features, what kind of clothes he wears. So everything they describe, and according to that description the ISKCON artists, they make these photographs or paintings. So when this lady, she saw this photograph of Yamdutas capturing a person and taking him away, she shouted very loudly, and the devotees of the temple, they were alarmed. So immediately they brought a chair, some water, and made the lady sit down, gave him water, made her comfortable, and Then they asked, what happened, ma'am? Why did you shout like that? So then she was asking, who are these people? So to a Western lady, it's difficult to explain what is Yamraj and what is Yamdut. So they asked, anyways, no matter what, whoever they are, but what is the problem? So she said, I saw these people. When I was there in coma, these were the same people who came to take me away. They were binding me just like they're binding this person. But somehow I remembered God. Maybe she spoke something like Krishna or Jesus or whatever, and then these people, they looked at each other and they just simply left. So that's what she describes. So then when the devotees heard that such an experience this lady had, then they described that actually these are Yamdutas, there is hellish planet, and there people who are sinful, they are taken. Maybe you took the name of God, therefore these people left you. So by this, even the faith of the devotees became stronger, and this lady, she also became a devotee. She became a full-time devotee. She gave up all her sinful activities and she became full-time devoted. So this is just one example. Similarly, so many people who have experienced near-death experience, that is called NDE and OBE, out-of-body experience. So these are medical terms, NDE and OBE, near-death experience and out-of-body experience. So when people experience such things, many of them report that we have seen these personalities. So by this we can understand that it's not just simply someone's imagination. Now Bhagavatam is not making stories. Actually these are the real facts. So now we need to understand that from human body we have this opportunity that either we can go to the hellish body or we can go to the spiritual body. This opportunity we have. Human body is like a crossroad. We can use this opportunity to either jump from human body to a hellish body or to a spiritual body. This is our opportunity. So you see, this point we need to understand that our human form is like a crossroad. See, in material world we are rotating in 8.4 million species of life, and this human form of life, this is the only exit point from the cycle of birth and death. So we can use this opportunity to launch back into the spiritual world, and thus we can end the cycle of repeated birth and death in this material world. This is known as moksha or liberation. But if we lose this opportunity, then again we continue the cycle of birth and death in 8.4 million species till we come back to the human form of life. So this is what our position is. It's a crossroad position. Either return back to spiritual world, or if we lose this opportunity, then again we continue the cycle in 8.4 million species till the time we come back again to human form of life, and then we may get the opportunity. uh, yeah. So when we come back again to human form of life, then we will get the opportunity to again return back to the spiritual world or attain the liberation or moksha. So you can imagine how valuable is the human form of life. So therefore, Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita, it speaks about this, that Brahmand Brahmite kono bhagyavan jeev Guru Krishna prasade paye bhakti lata bij. That means in Brahmand, so many jeev or living entities, they are roaming, but Guru Krishna prasade paye bhakti lata bij कोनो भाग्यवान जीव, कि कोई जो बहुत ही भाग्यवान व्यक्ति होता है, वही वो ही गुरु कृष्ण प्रसाद से ये भक्ति का बीज उसे मिलता है और वो इसे लेकर के भक्ति में आगे बढ़ पाता है. So now we are getting this opportunity in human form of life. So we should grasp this opportunity and not lose this opportunity, because it's the opportunity that only very bhagyavan jeev, they only get. So we have this opportunity of becoming very bhagyavan. So we have three options at this junction. Number one option is we return back to the spiritual world for eternal happy life in the spiritual world. So condition for this is that you attain perfection in your spiritual practices. Second option that we have, at least continue as a human being, at least take a human birth. The condition for this is that at least we have practiced little bit of spirituality. And third thing is go down again to the lower species and again rotate in the cycle of 8.4 million species. So when this happens, when a person shows no interest in self-realization, right? So why, the question comes, why a person who shows little interest, he is given a human birth, and who shows no interest, he is going down to a lower species? Why such a things happen? So our shastras give, our scriptures give a very clear cut logic about this. They explain that there are 8.4 million species because there are 8.4 million ways in which we desire to enjoy. Every species, it has a special capacity to enjoy in a particular way, and if we take birth in that particular species, we can enjoy in that particular way. And we have 8.4 million desires, 8.4 million ways in which we want to enjoy. Therefore there are 8.4 million species. Just for example, you consider a lion or a tiger. It has a special ability of small intestine and sharp teeth. What is the purpose? So that it can enjoy the happiness of meat eating. Okay, that's the gross happiness. You see, we don't have small intestines. We have, like, our intestines are very large. The intestines of a tiger, they are very short. So because why they are short? Because the meat gets digested very easily and it has to come out. But because we have long intestines, so meat, it gets digested and stays in our intestine for a long period of time, and there it rots and creates a lot of toxins which are in long run very harmful for our body. So our body is not designed to eat meat. But if someone has a lot of desire to eat meat, better take the body of a lion or a tiger who can enjoy this happiness. Polar bear, it has the special ability of hibernation. That means it can sleep for 6 months. So the purpose is enjoy sleeping, the gross happiness of sleeping, that you can enjoy, right? We cannot enjoy sleeping so much. So first of all, we will not get so much sleep only, and even if someone tries sleeping a lot, he will get back pain. He will not be able to enjoy that happiness so much because our body is not designed for this enjoyment. Similarly, a pigeon, what is the special ability? It has a lot of mating capacity, so it can engage in sex a lot. And what is the purpose? You can enjoy the happiness of sex. Human beings, they don't have this capacity. If someone tries to enjoy a lot of the sex life, then he will lose all potency from his body, and uh, too much engagement may lead to even death. So human body is not designed even for this happiness. If someone wants this happiness, better take the body of a pigeon. So what human beings, what special ability they have, and for what purpose this body is designed, that also our scriptures tells. The human beings, they have developed intelligence, and what is the purpose? The purpose is self-realization or spiritual happiness. Other happinesses that we have seen above, they are in the category of gross and subtle, but human beings have developed intelligence that they can enjoy the happiness of self-realization. That's only possible in the human body. No other body can give you this facility of self-realization. You will not find that cats, there is a cat Mataji, and there she has cat disciples and she is giving pravachan to her cat disciples. or dog Swamiji, and dog Swamiji has many dog disciples. So, and they are discussing Bhagavad Gita together. That's not possible. That's only possible for the human beings. So, this is the special ability that human beings have. So, material nature gives us a body according to our desire. You desire too much to eat meat, then take the body of a lion or a tiger. If you desire to sleep too much, take the body of a polar bear. And too much desire for sex, then become a pigeon. But if you have even a little desire for self-realization, then you continue as a human being. Because material nature wants to give you a body according to your desire. So what you desire, that particular kind of body you will attain. So spiritual life is described as a permanent bank balance. That means nothing is lost. In this life, suppose you earn 1 lakh rupees, you will not take that money with you in your next life. Again, you have to start with rupees 1. You become a very educated person, PhD, but that degree will not go with you. Again, next life you have to start from A, B, C, D. So these things, they will not go with us in our next body. Please mute your audio, Amit Prabhu. Please mute your audio. So these things, they will not go with us, right? But if we perform 10% of spirituality, next life we will start from 11%. If we perform 50%, next life we start from 51%. So material nature sees that you were at 10% level and you have used your human body to at least come to the level of 15%. You may not have finished the process, not 100%, but at least you have shown some interest, some little bit you wanted to practice spirituality. 10% say you have made some progress to 15%. If you have done that, then material nature sees that this person is interested in spiritual happiness, this person is interested in self-realization. Then you continue with a human body even in your next birth. But if you have no such desire, then material nature gives you body according to your desire. So if we have other desires, then take a suitable body. Okay. So if we have little desire for self-realization, then we continue as a human being. Else material nature gives us a body according to the type of material enjoyment that we desire. The logic of material nature is do not play cricket with a hockey stick. That means if you want to play cricket, take a cricket bat. Why you are struggling with a hockey stick to play cricket? That means you want to enjoy these happinesses of meat eating, sleeping and sex life. Better take a body in which you can enjoy such happiness. Human body is not suitable for such happiness, so why you are struggling with a human body? But human body is suitable for self-realization. If you want that, then obviously then you are most welcome to take human body again. And where you left off, you will continue from that point. If you left off at 15%, you will start from 16%. If you left off at 70%, you will start from 71%. So that's the profit. It's a eternal bank. And that's not true with material happiness. But if you don't have any desire, then take a proper body according to your desire, some other body. So at least we should practice this much spirituality, that we should at least get a human body. It's a great danger, no, that in next life we may not gain even a human birth. We may go down to some plant or animal species. So at least if we practice little spirituality, at least this much is assured that at least in our next life we'll get human birth. So even for this purpose, at least for this purpose, one should practice at least little spirituality. And obviously not little, if we practice it full-heartedly, full-fledged, then we can attain perfection even in this lifetime, and we can return back to the spiritual world for eternal happiness. So please try to understand this point that I am trying to tell you. It's very, very important that we understand this thing, that life is preparation and our death is examination. At the time of death, our future will be decided, that which path we take out of these three paths. Because in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna tells, अंतकाले च मामेव स्मरन् मुक्त्वा कलेवरम यह प्रयाति समद्भावम यति नास्ति अत्र संशय. That means Lord Krishna tells that whatever state of being you will remember, that state you will attain without fail. If at the end of your life, at the point of death, you are thinking about meat eating. Why you are thinking? Because whole life you have taken meat only and you are too much attached to meat eating. So attachments we cultivate in our life. If your whole life you have taken a lot of meat, then you will have a lot of attachment to meat eating. You have developed a lot of taste for it, and at the time of death you will be attached to that. Your consciousness will be attached to meat eating, and according to your consciousness you will think about meat eating only at the time of your death, and you will get a suitable body, maybe the body of a lion or a tiger. Similarly, it's mentioned in the Shastras, if a man is attached to a woman, whole life he has cultivated attachment to a woman, then at the time of death he will think of a woman, and next life he will become a woman. Similarly, a woman, if she is attached to a man, then at the time of death she will think of a man and she will become a man. So similarly, many examples are given how at the time of death, what is our consciousness that decides our next birth. But Krishna tells, if you remember me, then you will come back to me in the spiritual world. So this is the process of attaining perfection. If at the time of our death we can think of Krishna or Ram or any form of the Lord, if we can think of God, then we will attain to the spiritual world. If you think of Lord Ram, you will go back to Ayodhya. If you think of Krishna, you may go back to one of these places of Mathura, Vrindavan and Dwarka. These all three places are there in Krishna Lok, in the spiritual world. So according to the type of attraction you have for Lord Krishna, you may return back to these places. Or if you are attached to Lord Narsimhadev, Varahadev, all these different incarnations of the Lord, you will attain to a particular planet which belongs to these special forms of the Lord. So all these forms of the Lord, they have a particular Vaikuntha planet in the spiritual world. So if you think of any one of these forms of the Lord, that place you will go. And if you think of something else, then according to that, you will get your next birth. So therefore, death is an examination when it will be tested what is the quality of our consciousness. And that we cannot do that at the point of death. We just say, hey Krishna, hey Govind, and shoot ourselves. So that is not going to work. If whole life you have cultivated attachment to God, then only at the time of death you will be able to remember God. Otherwise, you will not be able to remember God. Therefore, life is a preparation and death is examination. So please hold on with me. We are about to finish in little bit more time. So these are some very important concepts. I just request you that please be little patient and just be with me and focus and try to understand these concepts, because they are very, very important for us to understand. So you see, in our journey of life, the initial part, this part we have lived without any preparation for our final exam, right? Till now we have not practiced any spirituality, and this is the end portion of our life, which is old age. In old age we are too weak to prepare. In old age, how much Bhagavad Gita can you read when there will be spectacles in your eyes and your hands will tremble? You will not be able to pick up your book. So how much Bhagavad Gita can you read that time? It will be so difficult. So till now, beginning portion of our life, we have just spoiled. We have not practiced any spirituality, and old age we will be too weak to practice the spirituality. So the point is, now is the time. This is the best time. Today is the time to practice spirituality. We cannot just simply afford to postpone our practice of spirituality to old age or sometime in future. Today we have to take this step of practicing spirituality. Because actually, you see, in human form of life, we have very little time. Anyhow, the lifespan is about 65 years. In that also, initial part is gone as childhood, and the later part is gone in old age. In both these stages, in childhood and old age, our consciousness is very covered. We are not in our proper mental state. In childhood also we are immature. In old age also our mental condition starts going down. So practically only for 20 or 30 years, only for this much span in our life, we are in full health with strong intelligence, and we can use this time only we have, for which we can use to cultivate our spiritual life. So now is the time. So we cannot just simply afford to postpone it. That we should try to understand. So just think this way. So now I request that maybe you can, till now I was speaking so much. I request that now you can give me some answers. I may be asking you some questions. This is a situation that I will give to you, and you have to tell me what you will do in this situation, and by this many concepts will become clear. So I don't think it should not be like that I am just only speaking. I want to make the session little interactive now. Just I will be asking some questions to you, and I request that maybe you can reply back. That will be best. And if you don't reply, at least you can type it in the chat box. So what is the situation? You are sitting in an economy class of an airplane whose engine has suddenly failed and it is about to crash in next 15 minutes. So you are sitting in an economy class of an airplane, the engine has failed and it is about to crash in next 15 minutes. Now your favorite food items, they are kept on the table in front of you, and also a map which shows how to reach to the parachute chamber of the plane. So you are sitting in that plane which is about to crash in 15 minutes, and in front of you there is a table on which your favorite food items are there, and also there is a map which shows you how to reach to, there is a parachute chamber in the plane, how you can reach. So my question is, at this point, will you just try to enjoy your favorite snacks, or will you immediately start searching for the parachute? What you will do? You can speak or you can reply in the chat. So what you will do in this situation? Please tell me. Anyone? Please reply. Anyone? Okay, some people are typing. Maybe you can speak in the mic. Typing may take some time. What's the difficulty? You can speak in the mic, no? A simple question, no? Okay, so here this reply from Krishna. Okay, we will search for the parachute, right? So we will search for the parachute. Others are not replying anything. So I request that others can also take part in the discussion. So yes, we will immediately search for the parachute. We will not be like simply wanting to enjoy, because the life is very important first. If our life is saved, then we can enjoy a lot of eating our delicious food items, right? The first thing is to save the life. So you see, our situation is exactly like this crashing of this plane. This plane is going to crash in 15 minutes and our life is going to crash in next 65 years maybe, right? Average lifespan of an Indian is 65 years. So out of this, some time we have already passed, and remaining time, whatever is there, that is also going to go away, and this life is going to crash very soon. So in this situation, we can try to enjoy our favorite snacks. That means we can try for gross and subtle happiness of the world, or we can search for the parachute. So what this parachute is? This parachute is our spiritual practices. This parachute is bhakti of the Lord. This parachute can save us. Bhakti can save us at the time of our greatest need, when we are about to give up this body. So now people ask, so should we leave all our worldly enjoyment and just go to the forest and become a sadhu or a sannyasi? So therefore I have written this word just in bold. That means that no, it's not needed that you just simply go to the forest and give up everything. That is not needed. But don't just aim for worldly things only. You continue with your worldly things, but you understand that is not the only goal of life. The real goal of life is to search for this parachute, the parachute of bhakti, which will save us at the time of our greatest need, when the plane will crash and we have limited time. 15 minutes are there. Out of that 15 minutes, maybe we have already passed 5 minutes or something. So if considering 65 years of lifespan, if I ask you that how much portion of your life you have crossed, then obviously most of you must have crossed 1/3 of your life at least. So that means out of 15 minutes, 5 minutes are gone. Now 10 minutes more to go. So you have only 10 minutes more to go, and before this time also runs out, we need to find that parachute of bhakti. So do other things, but keep this in mind that this is the most important goal. Now second thing is, will you just try to elevate yourself from an economic class to business class when the plane is about to crash and you are sitting in economy class and you are working very hard to elevate yourself to a business class? Does that make sense? Because whether you are in economic class or whether you are in business class, both places you are going to die when the plane is going to crash, right? So what sense it makes? So that's what we are doing in this world. If we have 1 BHK apartment, we are working very hard to get a 2 BHK apartment, then a 3 BHK apartment, then maybe a bungalow, then maybe we want our house to be in a prominent city of Delhi, Bombay, or some place like that. And if we get a house there, then we want to our place of residence to be maybe in some western country, in US. And when we get that, then maybe we want that maybe we get a place of residence on the moon. So there is no end to it. But all these desires are like we are trying to elevate ourselves from economic class to business class when the plane is only going to crash. So does it make any sense? When you are going to die, then what sense it makes just to develop your economy, right? Economic development. So it's not that one has to give up these things. It's not that economic class is bad or business class is bad. What is bad is giving up your whole life only for this purpose. So the point here is, whether you are in economic class or you are in business class, now one should start searching for that parachute. Stay in economic class or stay in business class, but search for that parachute. This is the important thing that needs to be understood. So people tell that should we stop looking for better jobs, better facilities in life? No, you look for it. Again I have written, don't just try to do this. Do it, but know that the real goal that you need to achieve is this thing, to search for that parachute, not just elevate yourself from economy class to a business class. The third question is, somebody asks you to think about parachute later on and right now enjoy your food. Will you agree? He will tell you, anyhow, till now only 5 minutes are gone. No, 10 minutes more are there. Why to take anxiety so much now? Maybe for 7-8 minutes you enjoy the food item which is there, and in last 2-3 minutes we will think about the parachute. So will you agree? What will you tell? Anybody can reply this? Anybody wants to reply? You can speak or you can type. What will you do, or what will you tell such a person? Anybody? Okay, you are typing. Okay, you are typing, but maybe speaking is better because typing may take some time. But anyways, you can type also.
Hmm.
Please make it quick. So he is replying that it is important to find parachute than eating food. Yeah. So we will not accept the advice of such a person, right? Why? Because we don't know whether we have 10 minutes also left or not, and it will take time for you to find the parachute, right? It's not that immediately you can find it. So the people who tell that put off spirituality for old age, when you will retire and you go to some holy place, you go to Vrindavan, Haridwar, and when you after you retire, and then you engage in the kirtan of the Lord. Right now, this is not the age to practice bhakti so seriously. That's what people may tell you, but you understand that's not the point. Right now we have to practice. Right now we have to practice spirituality, because we don't know how much time, whether these 10 minutes time also we have in our life or not. This also we don't know. Right now, if we get affected by a corona disease, then immediately our game is over. We will not get even those 10 minutes. Or even if that does not happen, still you can understand a lot of many other factors are there by which we can lose our life immediately, right? Okay, so next question is, will you trade off your acquired parachute for any amount of money or anything this world can offer? Will you do that? Obviously, no, because the parachute is very valuable, right? Suppose a person comes to you and he tells that this parachute is worth just 1000 rupees. I am giving you 1 lakh rupees. Please give me your parachute. So, will you give? Obviously, no. Even if he tells, that I give you of this world, I will not trade off my parachute for anything of this world, right? Because at this point of time, parachute is more important than anything else. So when we give up our spiritual practices for the things of this world. When we sacrifice with our spiritual practices just for gaining some little extra amount of money, or we work over duty so that just we will get some extra money, some package or something. So it's like when we are compromising because of that. Many times people, they are working so hard that they don't get time even to visit temple. So if we are doing such a thing, that means for gaining that much extra amount of money, we are sacrificing our parachute. So that we should be careful of, that for gaining the things of this world we should not sacrifice our parachute. Now the fifth point is, if you found the parachute chamber, will it not be the best gift to all your fellow passengers to tell them also that there are sufficient parachutes for everyone and there is no shortage, right? So that is called preaching. When we have got the address of the parachute chamber and we have got the parachute also in the form of our spiritual practices, so then now it is the best gift to the world to share this parachute with others, right? So see, you see, there are social services, NGOs which perform social service of maybe giving uh, food or blankets to old this poor people. But you see, the best charity is to give this gift of this parachute to everyone. So social service is not bad, but better than social service, better than distributing food and blanket, is to distribute this parachute. That means the knowledge of devotional service. So that's what preaching is all about, distributing this parachute. Now suppose you are offering this parachute to others, but the person does not agree. So because that other person is not agreeing to jump with you with that parachute, will you also not jump? Suppose in the whole plane you are the only passenger, the only one who wants to take the parachute and jump. All others enjoy the facilities in the plane. They want to eat, drink and be happy. And you're trying to convince that it's only 10 minutes more. After that your life will be gone. Give up these things and take this parachute. And they are not interested. So this does not mean that we will also not jump. We will take our parachute and we will jump, and we will tell others that you can also come. Those who are intelligent, they will come. Anand Sarkar is replying that yes, I will jump, but before that I will try to convince others. Yes, so we'll try to convince others. So those who are intelligent, they will come. But suppose people, those who are not coming, so it's not that we will also postpone our plan of jumping. Even if you are the only person who wants to take this parachute and jump off, then also we should not be disturbed. We should not follow the masses, we should follow the right path. So that's the point. So we should remember these 6 points and from this situation, and it will help us build up our determination in spiritual life. So now here is the parachute. So our Vedic scriptures and guidance of exalted acharyas who are bona fide spiritual teachers, they tell us that if we can do just these following 3 things, we will return back to the spiritual world. So what are these 3 things? Number 1 is chanting 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. This is called Japa. Number 2 is following the 4 regulative principles. This means no meat eating. This meat eating principle includes fishes and eggs. This we are mentioning separately because many times people don't consider fishes and eggs in the category of meat eating, but actually it is also there in the category of meat eating. Then no intoxication. This includes drinking liquor and also includes pan, gutka, etc. And tea and coffee are also considered mild intoxicants. So drinking tea and coffee is not a severe thing, but still they are in the category of intoxicants. So one has to give up drinking tea and coffee also if possible. Then no gambling and no illicit sex. No illicit sex means no sex outside of marriage and no sex obviously before marriage. And this includes pornography and masturbation. So you must be aware of these terms, and if you don't know, you can look into dictionary. Third principle is Shravan and Kirtan of the scriptures, like Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. So Shravan means hearing or reading. Both are in the category of Shravan. Shravan means hearing or reading, both ways, by which we gain knowledge. And Kirtan means speaking. Just like right now, you are hearing and I am speaking. So I am doing Kirtan and you are doing Shravan. So both of us, we are making spiritual advancement. By discussing these topics, both of us, we are going close to our journey in perfection. So, but for doing Kirtan, first Shravan has to happen. If Shravan has not happened properly, then how we will do Kirtan? So Kirtan means the Kirtan that we do in temple also with instruments, and Kirtan also means speaking. Both things are Kirtan. So we have to do Shravan and Kirtan of these scriptures of Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. And there is a fourth principle of avoiding Vaishnav Aparadh, offenses to the devotees of the Lord. So as we have seen, this offense of offending the devotees of the Lord, this is called Hathi Mat Aparadh. It's a mad elephant offense. It just simply destroys our bhakti, right? So one has to be very careful. So we cannot make any progress in spiritual life if we do not take care of this principle of avoiding Vaishnava Aparadh or offense to the devotees of the Lord. Because Lord does not take any offense towards him so seriously, but he takes the offenses which are committed towards his devotees very, very seriously. And offenses can be committed in two ways, through words and actions. Words means you are speaking harshly to someone, or you are chastising someone, maybe kind of giving kind of a gali to someone. So that is offense through words. And actions means you take a person and slap him. So that is an offense through actions. So through these two things, words and actions, we need to avoid Vaishnav Aparadh. Here, an important note is, just we are nearing the end. Just in 2-3 minutes, we'll finish off. So please note this, that it is not expected that in one day you immediately just start following these principles. But at least if you know what is the standard, then there is some hope that one day you will be able to follow it too. If you don't know only, then how you will follow it? So therefore we are making these principles clear, that at least you know that these are the standards, and according to your own speed you can make progress. Someone can go at a jet speed, and someone can go at the speed of a bullock cart. It depends on person to person, right? So but at least know what is the target. So this is our target. But if we follow these four things sincerely in our life, then it's 100% guaranteed. It's the guarantee of the Supreme Lord and our acharyas and our Vedic scriptures, that if we are able to follow these four principles in our life, then sure enough, at the end of our life, when we give up this body, we will return back to spiritual world and not take birth again in this material world. So for now, the new people, they can start chanting one round of Hare Krishna mantra. That will approximately take 8 minutes. So just take a small start. Don't try to take a big leap. There may be difficulty of falling down, but at least take a small leap. Just start chanting one round of Hare Krishna mantra at least, which will take approximately 8 minutes. And in this way, slowly, as your faith develops and you get adjusted and little bit more acquainted with the spiritual life, you can increase to 2 rounds, 3 rounds, and ultimately to 16 rounds. following the 4 regulative principles, then reading Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and we can slowly start following all these 4 principles. And if we follow these 4 principles sincerely throughout our life, surely at the end of life we will attain success. So we should also know that even surveys have shown that people with a spiritual mindset, they lead a more happy, satisfied and peaceful lives. So it is not that only we will get the benefit of our spiritual practices when we give up this body in next life. Even now, even in this life, the surveys have shown that people who live life with proper spiritual mindset, they lead a more happy, satisfied and peaceful lives. So this is the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, the Srila Prabhupada Pranati Mantra. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravari Bacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Then comes the Panch Tattva Mantra. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. And then there is this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, the great chanting for deliverance. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. So initially, if it is difficult to pronounce Srila Prabhupada Pranati Mantra, you can for the time being skip this thing, but at least we should chant the Panch Tattva Mantra, this Pranam Mantra one time, and then we can chant this Hare Krishna Mahamantra 108 times. That makes one round. One round, yeah, one mala. That means chanting this Hare Krishna Mahamantra 108 times. And before chanting this Mahamantra 108 times, at least one time we should chant Panchatattva Mantra, and if possible Srila Prabhupada Pranati Mantra. And if it is difficult for now to remember Prabhupada Pranati Mantra, then we can chant one time Panchatattva Mantra and then chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra 108 times. So chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra 108 times, that makes one round. And similarly, if we chant 16 times, it will make 16 rounds. That means 16 into 108, this many times will make the 16 rounds. And this practice takes approximately 2 hours for most devotees. So you can try during this long time period to chant as many rounds as possible. Utilize this free time to chant this Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So thank you very much for your patient hearing. What is the best time for chanting? Okay, so the best time for chanting is obviously in the morning after taking a bath, but it's better to at least chant. If you cannot chant in the morning after taking a bath, then better thing is at least chant any other time. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells that Nam Akari Bahuda Nij Sarva Saktis Tatrapita Niyamena Kalaha. That means there are no niyam and kal, no rules and time, place, circumstances for this. No restrictions. One can chant any day, any time, but it's better because morning time is in Sattogun, so our chanting will be a little more effective if we chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra in the morning time. So that we should try, but if not possible, at least we should chant. So in the morning, after we take bath, then we can sit. That will be good chanting, but if not possible, at least chant. Sometime, please chant. Anybody else wants to ask any question or anything else? Any questions anybody is having? Then please let me know. So one last thing then I will tell and we will finish, that in our WhatsApp group I have posted the link of one app, that is the Japa Counter app. So you can download this app. It's there in the WhatsApp group. There this link is there. So using that link you can download, and if you don't have beads on which we chant, you can use this app for counting your japa. Better is to chant on beads, but because it is lockdown period and if someone does not have beads, then at least you can use this counter app for doing your japa. Okay, so it's there in the WhatsApp group. If you do not find it, then let me know, I will send it to you again. So like this. So today my expectation is that at least new people who are there, please start chanting at least one round of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and slowly you can progress ahead and chant more rounds. But at least start, if possible, from today itself, chanting one round of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. It will take 8 minutes at max, and one round means one time Panchatattva mantra and then 108 times Hare Krishna Mahamantra. ओके, ठीक है. सो शिला प्रभुपाद की जय. थैंक यू वेरी मच. हरे कृष्णा.